Happy Saturday, everybody. I hope you all are having a good weekend. Welcome to episode 13 of Scenes from the Spectrum.
Here's Ilyasova. Here's McConnell. Can he get it off? Yeah! And the Sixers win it! 7 seconds to play. Iverson against Gill. The crowd on its feet. Allen for the win. Yes!
Wow, that voice just gives me goosebumps.
Gets me every
single
time.
time.
Yep,
Every
time.
single
It
time.
never fails.
I miss that. Yes, he would throw it in there like once a game.
Yeah, hey, it's
Graham.
iconic.
Graham, how we doing today?
We're all right. It could be better. Actually, I got to do some housekeeping around here.
Oh yeah. Oh
you will
yeah.
not be seeing this anymore until
Just throw it
things
away.
drastically change. Yeah, I'm throwing. It's going in the garbage bin.
Yeah. For people on the audio version, Graham had some flyers.
It's like, I just some
Picture on his wall. He had to take it off. It just had to
Yes,
go. What a disappointment that franchise is.
Unbelievable. Anyways, we do not want to harp on how bad the Flyers are in the front office. We're here to talk about the Sixers and how bad they are in their front office. Actually, that's not a real thing. They're all right in the front office. They are now.
Yeah.
But it could be worse, and we are reminded as that with another team that plays in the Wells Fargo Center. So whatever the Sixers may do in the front office, at least they're not the Flyers. Speaking of good front office moves, we got to get into our headlines. So, Tony, can you hit the music real quick? Because there has been some pretty good news coming out of the
Great
headlines
news.
here.
It came out a little while ago, but
Yeah. Here we go. Since our last episode, James Harden has agreed to a contract with the Sixers. It's just an agreement. He has not put pen to paper just yet, but it's coming. According to reports, he's just taking his time recovering from, Ruben's party in the Hamptons. The Sixers are deep into their summer league shenanigans. They won by almost 30 points today against the Nuggets, or last night. And they're set off to face against the Bulls in the final summer league game. That will happen today, Saturday. And then, oh my goodness, a very, very happy birthday. Special shout out to the one and only Mike Scott.
Mike Scott Hive, stand up.
He's
No,
35 years
I'm
old.
just kidding. Sit down.
Are you, Justin, you're not a part of the Mike Scott Hive?
Not anymore. I mean, not after the. What do I even call his last season? Just
I don't even want to think about it.
I don't have the words for it, but happy birthday, Mike Scott. I wish you the best.
3-5. How is he getting minutes as a 33-year-old in the NBA? That's wild. Shout out
Brown was
Ninja
still the
Bands,
coach,
though.
right?
Yeah. 1 year a doc. 1 year a doc.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Big shout out to Ninja Bands. Mike
Yeah.
Scott's biggest fan, even though Mike Scott has him blocked on Twitter, but
What an interesting dude Mike Scott is.
it happens. Yeah.
Oh, but let's get into this Harden agreement. There was a report from the People source, Jason Dumas, my favorite reporter of all
Mr.
time.
Dumas.
Oh my goodness. You can take it with a grain of salt with Dumas and all his reports. He said in a tweet that he's gotten several DMs asking why James Harden hasn't signed yet. He said he will. He's not in a rush. He's excited to be a Sixer, just waiting to see any offseason acquisitions, how they play out. And if some language in his deal has to change in order to help the team win, he will do that. So he's committed to Philly, Daryl Morey, and he's trying to win there. That's promising signs if Dumas is correct in his report. Not always something we say, but according to this report, and if we think this is true, what are your feelings about this?
I mean, I feel great. He's taking
Yeah.
a $15 million pay cut, according to, I think Shams was the one that
Yes.
tweeted that out last week. But, as you said, he is taking time to recover from the party at the Hamptons because, wow, every celebrity, it feels like, was there. You had, Jason Tatum was there.
Donovan Mitchell.
Lil Baby, Meek Mill.
Oh, yeah.
Harden, Embiid, and his girlfriend. I mean, the D'Amelios, they were there. Shout out
We'll
Charlie.
be there
but,
next year. Next year we'll be there.
Next year we'll be there. But no, he's doing what it takes to win a championship, and sometimes that is taking a pay cut, and sometimes you don't see that out of players. A player that signed an extension, Damian Lillard. It was $60 million per year. I think that contract will start in 2025. So I do not know. I don't like that contract for the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't know what they were thinking, giving him $60 million in his elderly years. But I guess Damian Lillard didn't run from the grind, and he's staying in Portland.
Yeah, we could talk about the similarities or differences, if you will, about their contracts. But according to SportRec, you got $32 million for James Harden in this season coming up, and then the year after that, $35 million, which is much different from the 43 and then the new negotiated max that we thought was going to pan out. So what happened to be a blessing in disguise is James Harden not filling out the paperwork in time on deadline day to opt in to the player option, because we would be in a chokehold right now, salary-wise and cap-wise, if that were the case. And it would be crazy to see how different the roster would look like if during the deadline James Harden opted into the player.
Yeah, and money's been kind of a big deal with this team lately. We put out a report on our Twitter at SFTS Podcast if you guys want to get the latest news. But we put out a report saying the Sixers were, in talks with Houston about I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Eric Gordon.
Eric Gordon.
Yes.
And the salary is a problem there. We would have to unload a lot of salary, which would mean Matisse, Ferk, Shake, and I don't even think that makes up money for Eric Gordon. But I have heard that talks have died down a little bit, and it's likely Eric Gordon will not end in a Sixers uniform. So there's that. But
yeah, he's making $20 million. A lot of question marks for a guy of his age, $20 million in the injury history. But again, we wouldn't even be having these discussions if it weren't for James Harden taking the pay cut. So he's a big testament to not only PJ Tucker, but Daniel House as well, having the MLE and having the biannual exception. Having both of those were instrumental for James Harden taking the pay cut. So big props, big shout outs to James Harden doing what it takes to win. And hopefully what he's saying in this offseason will translate to the court by October, and we can get to some real winning basketball.
Yeah. Now let's get to the main point of this episode, and that is Summer League. Sixers are, I think, 4-2, if I'm correct, in this year's Summer League.
I believe so. They just won today or last night.
Yeah, they won last night against the Nuggets. Trevelyan Queen had a very solid game. I don't have the stat line off on the top of my head, but Isaiah Joe has been having himself a very good summer league, including a game-winning shot I'd say last week. He 100% deserves a rotation spot, and if that means taking away minutes from Shake Milton and giving it to Isaiah Joe, I'm all for it. I know Shake is a good ball handler, but Isaiah Joe's shooting off the bench is just it's not something that comes very often. So I think he would be a really great addition coming off the bench.
Yeah, I like our guard play coming off the bench has to be good. When you've got Maxey and Harden, you need to keep that same energy when the second unit comes in. And I think Isaiah Joe is kind of he's fitting himself into the bill of a player that the Sixers need. He's molding himself into a team need. He's not necessarily playing his game, because his game is expanding his range, shooting off the dribble, coming around screens. If you watch him at Arkansas, you know what I'm talking about. But he's become more of what the Sixers need at this time of his career, being able to spot up and knock down shots and play some pretty good defense. So that's what I like about Isaiah Joe. You mentioned Trevelyan Queen against the Heat Wednesday night. He had 16 points. Last night, he had 5 assists in a game. So I really like what he's bringing to the table. Another interesting topic, Grant Riller, who was injured all of last year. Had 18 points in the win against the Nuggets. They won 97-71 last night. So there's been some good positives from the Sixers in their summer league, and yes, they are 4-3, I believe. Yeah, they lost their very first game of Salt Lake City to Memphis.
Yep.
So
Memphis, yep, I remember.
Yeah,
that.
by 4 points.
But a guy I really want to talk about would be Charles Bassey. I mean, he's kind of been the talk of all Sixers fans with, I guess, the past year, ever since Andre Drummond got traded. But, that first game against Memphis, he looked very uncomfortable out there. He didn't look like himself. But, as time went on, as he got more playing time, more games, he started to look way more comfortable out there, looked like the player, he's always been. And I think, or I believe he's really deserved that backup 5 spot. Paul Reed also, he's a dog out there, but I believe both of them are going to get some real NBA minutes and have a shot at getting a real spot in the NBA rotation.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Charles Bassey, even though he got off to a rough start, he's still putting in work. And you look at one of the main needs for the Sixers when you look at in terms of backup big men, and what was lacking last year and what we had for a little bit, but it fell off, and it was rebounding. We need some rebounders, especially offensively. Embiid does a lot defensive where he's, contesting shots, so he's not always there to rebound because he is a shot contester. That's what his job is defensively. So he's not always in the right position to rebound, and that's not a knock on Embiid. It's just the way he plays defense, the way we need him to play defense. On the offensive end for Joel Embiid, our best rebounder, he has the most unique shot diet in the NBA. So he's taking a lot of the shots. He can't offensive rebound for himself every time. And you look at Charles Bassey, who could come in and fill that big rebounding tough guy type of role for the Sixers that Andre Drummond kind of did to a T at the beginning of last season. In just 21 minutes, not even 21 minutes in Summer League, he's averaging 6.3 rebounds per game. So I really like that from Charles Bassey, that he's able to just play his role and box out, be tough, be physical down low. The points will come to him. We don't want him to be a scorer too much. We don't want him to take too many shots. If he could just let his offense come to him in the flow of how the offense is going to run on that given night, but rebound when Joel Embiid is not on the court, I think that's all you can ask from Charles Bassey because he's athletic. He can play pretty stout defense, and he seems like a person that's not going to let the lights get too bright on him.
Yeah, and you're talking about Charles Bassey scoring, and I think he would be doing a majority of that scoring with James Harden. Yes. Sharing the court with him, especially with that pick and roll out of it.
Yeah, and he's a guy that can rim run, no doubt.
Yep, he absolutely a lob threat, kind of like the player that Harden made Clint Capella into. Really boosted his offensive game, and that's why Clint Capella is such a good player now because he was a teammate of James Harden and got a lot of offensive points with him. He learned. And he's very solid for the. He's still playing for the Hawks, right?
Capella,
yeah.
I believe so. I don't. Okay. I try to not look at the Hawks. I get too much PTSD.
Yeah, but I'm really excited to see what Charles Bassey brings this year. We call him Seabass, but it's just we've all been asking for it. But can he do it on the NBA stage?
Yeah, that's one thing that we're going to look at, and it's the game against Jokic, the second half against Jokic. That's what we're going to look at. And I guess the MVP, you can't deny it. You want to say short sample size, I get it, but it's against Jokic, and he was able to lock him down and have success on the offensive end. So
if I remember correctly, Jokic didn't score a single field goal in the second half, right?
I think it was all free throws, yeah. I believe so. Okay. And it was like 2 points, 4 points, maybe.
Yeah, he can, not at the level of Embiid's defense, but kind of Joel Embiid-esque defense in the way.
He can hold his own. If he needs to, he can hold his own. I like that.
And moving on to Paul Reed. I mean, what Paul Reed brings to the table, and he's going to go out there and outwork every single player on the court, and that's exactly what he's been doing this summer league. I mean, he looks really good. He's still working on that jump shot. Even though how weird it might look,
yes.
he's working on it. Trevelin Queen is a guy I wanted to talk about because he started off the summer league a little sluggish, a bit uncomfortable out there. But the last two games, I think it was Wednesday night and last night, he's beginning to. You see him kind of flow with the offense and find his groove and be way more comfortable, and that's exactly what you want to see out of him. And we have the last 2 years of the G League MVPs in Paul Reed and Trevelin Queen. So
yeah, first I want to speak on Paul Reed, and then I'll get to Trevelin Queen just for a second. Paul Reed, the problem with him at the moment is that he's in sort of a predicament of he's too good for the G League, but he's not good enough for the NBA, and he's stuck right there in the middle. And that's something that for his work ethic, I don't expect to stick. He's eventually going to figure out the NBA. Whether or not he's a good player is up to how his shot falls or his defense. But he will find some NBA minutes. It might not be with the Sixers, but he will be an NBA player for a good amount of time. Might be a journeyman, who knows? But I think that as of right now, he is just stuck in the middle of too good for the G League, not good enough for the NBA, and he needs to get out that as soon as possible for the sake of the Sixers, not just his career, but for the team. And Trevelin Queen. He's a journeyman already in his young career. You talk about a guy that went to multiple high schools. He went to a couple junior colleges. He was living out of his car, undrafted. Finally got his chance with the Rockets G League. Made the most of that, and now he's on a new team a year later. Not even. So I think for him is just learning how to be comfortable, because I don't know if he knows how to be comfortable in a basketball setting. The way he's moved around and had to all the struggles that he's been through basketball wise, I want him to just slow it down. And, even when things, don't go right, or you have a cold stretch over a week, you can't panic because it's the NBA, 82 games. He just needs to settle in and find his role as soon as possible for Trevelin Queen.
Yeah, and going back to your point about Paul Reed and him not being so NBA ready, but too good for the G League. I mean, you can see it out there on the court when he's playing with the big dogs. I mean, his game is not polished. He needs to work on it. You can see a lot of rookie mistakes out there, like turnovers and miscommunication with his teammates, or maybe on the defensive end. But he tries to make up for it with his work ethic and how hard he goes through everything. But sometimes it's just not enough, and he's very stuck in that kind of weird spot. But yeah, like you said, I think he will figure it out. Maybe if not this year, then the next coming years. So
yeah, at least this is another thing for Doc, because Doc's very aware that he's not ready to play NBA level talent night in, night out, but he's also can't play in the G League again because he's too good for that. He's not going to help his game, not going to help his career, not going to help the team in the G League.
Yeah, he just dominates every time.
Right. So for Paul Reed and Doc Rivers, you got to find out. We always talk about a skill curve of a guy has 12 points per game on 87%, but what happens if he tries to go for 25 points per game? What's his percentage going to look like? That's the type of thing for Paul Reed, but a minutes curve. If you play him more than 8 minutes, the productivity of the efficiency of him is going to go down. But if you only play him for 2, you're not getting the maximum of Paul Reed. So you got to find the sweet spot of minutes for Paul Reed so he can be the most productive for the Sixers in his minutes, and that's up to Doc Rivers. And when you talk about Doc Rivers rotations, I have next to no faith in that happening.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the players you have, and you're like, all right, these kinds of rotations make sense, and this player should probably play this amount of minutes, but no, you literally have no idea what Doc is going to do, and that's what kind of scares me with a player like Paul Reed, because he needs work. He needs to polish his game, and he can do that this year, I believe, with, like you said, the perfect amount of minutes, which I believe will be around 5 to 6 minutes. I think would be perfect for him to go out there, be an absolute dog, outwork everybody, and work on your game a little bit. So we obviously want Doc to do that, but is he going to do that? I don't think we'll ever know until the season starts.
If we look at this summer league as a whole, and we had to ask what attribute of what player would be, the most NBA ready, would it be Charles Bassey's rebounding, Isaiah Joe's shooting, Paul Reed's hustle. I would say none of the above. Jaden Springer's defense is the most NBA ready, compartment out of any player here. 2 steals per game, not even that shows on the stat sheet. Jaden Springer is an absolute workhorse on defense. The offense, he's still very young, but it also shows promising signs for Jaden Springer. And he was shut down, so he's not going to play anymore. And I think that goes to show that the faith of the Sixers they have in Jaden Springer, that they feel like he can potentially play some guard minutes in the back end rotation. I expect him to go to the G League at some point this season, but if an injury were to occur or, God forbid, another COVID outbreak, I think Springer would be the first guy called up.
Yeah, I really like Springer's game. I mean, he was drafted as a project player, obviously, him being the youngest player in the draft, and he's still 19 in his second year of the NBA. So
right.
He obviously is a project player, and I see people complaining about it all the time, whether it's on Twitter or the crazy guys on the radio. But people have to understand that he's a project player. It's not somebody who's going to come in and contribute right away. It's a player that you see that great potential in him, and you work on his game for years. Like this project is not going to take a year,
right?
2 years. It's going to take 4, 5, 6 years.
It was more of a baseball draft pick.
Yeah,
you got to go through the farm system, through the minor leagues first.
Yeah.
Before we move on to something else, I just want to point out we can't skip over Summer League without talking about Cassius Winston. Seven assists a game. Not even. I mean, the second place man, Trevelyan Queen, is not even close. He's 2.3 assists per game. Cassius Winston 7 assists per game, and he's got 11.3 points per game in this summer league. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
29 minutes a game. How about that?
I think he absolutely deserves a spot with the Blue Coats this year.
I mean, he hasn't given us a reason not to have him on a G League roster, but he's just not NBA ready. He's
absolutely. Yeah, if you watch him out in summer league and you really pay attention to him, you can see his game is nowhere near NBA ready. But
he's a pure player though.
Yeah,
like, he's a hooper.
Yeah,
but he's just not NBA.
I think you give him a year or two in the G League. I mean, hopefully, I'd like him with the Blue Coats because he was fun to watch in the summer league. I really enjoyed it. But a few years in the G League and maybe he'll be NBA ready. You never know.
All right, I think we have our tweets of the day / night, however they may be. Over the last week, we have scoured Twitter.com, and I think producer Tony, did we have 2 tweets? Is that right, Tony?
Let's do the we're on Twitter a lot, right? We see a lot of tweets every day, but there's just this one tweet, that we saw and we were like, what? And that came from our very own producer, Tony. Tony, show yourself. Let's see you.
Yeah, Tony. Actually, here. Okay, we see what you look like. All right, now let's show the tweet.
Now let's see the tweet. I'll read it out for the audio users. Tony tweets out, "It's more likely Maxey takes a slight step back than another forward this year, by the way." And then he said to his own tweet, because he was getting cooked on Twitter, he says, "I'm going to take my L. Don't worry." Now, Tony, chance to defend yourself?
Look, like I said in my reply to my own tweet, I'll take my L. I was getting cooked. I'm not going to lie. I didn't mean to word it like that. I was this is nasty. I didn't want to say the word regress. I couldn't find another word. I don't think he's going to take another leap again. Look, I love Maxey. He's my favorite player in the NBA. Okay. I don't want him to fail. Other Sixers fans don't want him to fail. I've been seeing too much overrating, I guess is the word.
That's fair.
For one Tyrese Maxey. I just don't think he's going to take another leap. I think he'll have similar stats to this last season, which some people might
have
problems with. But
listen, you really should have thought about.
I'm not going to delete it
before you tweeted that. No. Respect for keeping it up, but obviously we know what Tony means, but I
Oh,
just
whoa,
think
whoa. We.
No.
Don't speak for me. I have no clue what he's talking about.
he just.
First of all,
Oh, come on.
All right.
look.
This
Like,
is
I
ridiculous.
get the premise, right?
No,
Max,
you understand. You kind of understand what he's trying to say.
I'm not saying it was right because it wasn't.
Look,
It clearly
I
wasn't.
understand. I understand the concept of what he was saying. Even
that's
when
what I mean.
explained it, I still don't think it's going to be right. I don't think that there is in no shape or form that Maxey will take a step back. Maybe,
Yes,
in no
that's correct.
way he's gonna regress. There's no possible way. I mean, what, he's 20, 22, 21?
He's 21, yeah.
Yeah, like he's 21 years old. He had an incredible leap. So I don't see where he could regress in any shape or form.
And we're talking about he'll be a third-year player. And if you look at third-year players in the NBA, what do they do, Justin? What a third?
This
that
is so gross.
They take huge leaps.
Oh
after
my-
your first 2 years in the NBA, your biggest leap, and this is for all NBA players, it's a proven fact, their biggest leap comes in their third year. And what happens after that? After their third year, it's their restricted free agent year, and they're going to get, if they're young and they're good, they're going to get tossed the bag. So I think
Maxey
that,
will get tossed back.
yes, Maxey will most definitely
as he
get tossed the
deserves,
bag.
yes.
So I think that Maxey, maybe his points per game stays stagnant. I don't think it's going to drop. Maybe a stagnant a little bit.
That's
No,
kind of what
no,
I'm getting.
no,
that
that's
was
not-
what don't.
His assist numbers are going to skyrocket.
Yep.
I think his rebounds are going to go up. He's going to be
Yep.
more active in the passing lanes when you
Yep.
have more, centralized defense around Joel Embiid. I think
Yep.
his 3-point percentage might stay stagnant. That's all right to think about. It's okay.
I mean, his 3-point percentage went up like what, 18%
Yeah,
last
like
year?
42% this year. I think.
Yeah, I think he's a 42%. I think not 42. I think he's a 40% 3-point shooter.
I think he's high 30s. I
Hey,
think he's
and,
high
and,
30s,
and when
low
he
40s.
and when he shoots from the corners,
Yeah.
he's lights out.
I think he's going to have opportunities to shoot from the corners with James Harden. I think that I mean, like, his turnovers are going to go down. He's probably going to rebound a bit better, more steals. Like I said, what is he? Is he going to foul more? Like,
Listen, Tony.
All right.
Tony. Not everybody is Ben Simmons, where they're just going to regress.
Look, I'm broken. I'm used to players not progressing, staying exactly the same. Even regressing 4 or 5 years into their career. I'm not used to this.
It's all right.
Listen.
We
It doesn't happen to people not named Ben Simmons. So
yeah, that's all right.
now,
Fair.
second tweet of the day, which was what they call on Twitter a banger, and that's exactly what this was. I think it got almost 17,000 likes, and that was by our friend Aiden Doc, and it's a video, and we'll play it for you, Tony, if you want to play it. So obviously that clip is from the Amazon show The Boys, which check it out. But I laughed at it when I saw it. Graham, I'm sure you did as well.
Oh yeah, I thought that was hilarious. The first tweet I saw when I woke up Friday morning. So yeah, I was very happy that people are recognizing the dirtiness of Nikola Jokic. And Justin, if people were to look through the files on your computer, they would know that you have a stash of Jokic.
All right, listen. We went through movie. we were all hanging out on a call one time, and I was going through my files with my screen shared, and there was like 5 or 6 videos of Jokic dirty plays. That's because I made a compilation once and put it out on Twitter.
That's so gross. That is nasty.
I was sick about him winning MVP.
Yeah, that's a nasty agenda you're running, but I respect it. But yeah, I did think like Markieff Morris hasn't signed a contract yet. Like,
he said he wanted to come to Philly.
I don't think he's gonna come to Philly, but
I know he's probably not going to. But he said he wanted to.
I get he's from Philly. I don't blame him, but I really don't know like how this has affected not only just one of the Morris twins, or both of them getting involved on Twitter. But I like Jokic might have messed the whole dude's career up.
I absolutely think he did.
With being frustrated. I think he did. I honestly, as it stands right now, he did. And he got praised for because Markieff Morris had a cheap shot. I guess that's not the game.
It was a take foul, but
Yeah, a take foul.
that's all it was. And then he had to go and you know what? We don't even need to talk about it because why we don't even need to give Jokic.
It was a good tweet. Shout out Aiden Doc.
Shout out Aiden Doc. Go give him a follow. I think it's Aiden Doc _ on Twitter. Give him a nice follow. But
I'm very sorry we had to crop out your name on the.
Yeah, it just looked really weird. It was really stretched out. I don't know what happened to it, but I think that's all we had to talk about today. Short episode. It's the summer. There's not much going on. Obviously when there's a lot going on, our episodes usually go over an hour, but we're at kind of the 40-minute mark. Anything else, Graham? You want to talk about?
No, not really. But fire Chuck Fletcher.
Fire Chuck Fletcher. Scream it on the top of your roof until he hears it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to episode 13 of Scenes from the Spectrum, the Summer League edition. Make sure to follow us everywhere, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all at SFTS Podcast. If you're on the video version, you can see that in the bottom left corner. If you're on the audio version, make sure to follow at SFTS Podcast. And on Instagram, it has an _ in there. We're getting a lot more active everywhere, especially TikTok. So, don't forget to follow us everywhere. But thank you guys if you've gotten through this far. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace out.